Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to this new video. In this one, we're going to move a fence and build a new one to close off the garden and most importantly, make it bigger. Before we begin, I'll explain the background of the plot I want to fence. We've lived here for about 10 years and have a 700 square meter garden. The previous owner had put up a fence and planted a hedge in the front and on the sides, but not in the back. Behind the house, we have a great view of a huge field and a forest. There used to be vineyards here, but they haven't been used in years. So, about 7 years ago, we bought this land, which is 25 meters wide and 80 meters long, and it's attached to the house's plot. We visited the notary, the surveyor marked everything, and all is fine. We expanded from 700 to 2,700 square meters, but now need to install a fence. So, originally, I wanted to install a gate and a fence at the end of the 80 meters at the edge of the land between our property and the woods. I have a public access road that's accessible by car, and I never went with that option for several reasons, so I need to bring in some soil. There's a dip on the left side of the land that becomes a pool when it rains, making it impossible to drive through. So, all the trees you see, whether they're oaks, birches or pines, grew naturally. We planted an olive tree and a eucalyptus later on. When my dog was little, he enjoyed biting and pulling out branches to chew on. So, I never moved the fence to let the oaks, pines and birches grow. Now that my dog is a responsible adult, I can move the fence to give him a bigger yard, but only up to the first pine tree because of processionary caterpillars. I always watch closely and remove and burn any white nests I see. We're still at risk of him licking processionary caterpillars and returning drooling with a swollen head. He's done it twice already, so we go straight to the vet, get a cortisone shot and monitor him for 24 hours. Thanks for your visit. Feel free to return with your dog anytime. It's always a pleasure. But it's 200 euros, so a fence is mandatory before the pine trees, or you have to treat them and watch them constantly. It's a shame to have land and not be able to fully enjoy it, but with nature, you have to adapt. Or I could just clear everything and pour concrete, but honestly, I'd rather see nature grow. So, regarding the fence, I'm going to take the original wire mesh panels and set them up 20 meters further in front of the first pine tree. I'm extending the garden by 20 meters, 500 square meters, for both the dog and the pool project. I initially planned to do the pool project while keeping the original fence so I could work on it without stress. But since I have a mini excavator right now, I'm going to take the opportunity to pull out the posts from the old fence, and especially to break down the mounds that are on this land. Back in the day there were vineyards and a tractor had to pass through, which created furrows. So, I'm going to level all that out, collect the soil and put it in that low spot. So, I'll move the fence by reusing the original wire mesh panels. And on the neighbor's side, since I have welded mesh panels that I don't use at all, I might as well use them. I'll buy 5 or 6 more to complete it, and that'll work just fine. A welded mesh panel costs less than a wire mesh panel, and the advantage is that the mesh is quite large, so it's ideal for guiding a climbing plant. I'm planning to plant wisteria ivy and possibly a climbing rose, but I'll need to keep them from overtaking the nearby trees. If my neighbor ever removes the trees, at least I still won't see into his yard. The fence between my property and my neighbors is well made. Oaks, pines and birches grow naturally in a line from boundary to boundary, almost as if nature knew I didn't want to see my neighbor's yard. So, the original wire mesh panels and the welded mesh panels, I'm going to attach them to posts with zip ties. Now, from a technical point of view, it's August and the ground is extremely dry. I'll try making holes with an auger, which creates clean round holes. However, I might have trouble because of the spot I want to put the fence, as I mentioned. There used to be vineyards here, so I'll run into vine roots, stones, and other obstacles, making things complicated, especially with the drought. We had trouble when we wanted to plant the olive tree and the eucalyptus. We only ran into vine roots. We brought in a mini excavator in case the auger can't go into the ground, since I have one. A few scoops with the bucket and that's it, so it's going to make much bigger holes of course, since it's a bucket, but there's a trick to make the hole smaller. So I planned ahead because I have to return the mini excavator soon, and I don't want to rent it again just for a few holes. I contacted someone I know who works in public works, and I asked him if he had any leftover PVC with a 200 mm diameter. Well, he has some leftover PVC, but only in 160 mm diameter, and the pieces are about 60 to 70 cm long. With everything he brought, I can fence to the back. If the auger doesn't work, I'll use the bucket instead. I place my leftover PVC, which I'm going to cut to about 50 cm, so I put them in the holes, fill in the dirt around them, and I end up with a 160 mm diameter hole. So in the end, I'll have 160mm diameter holes for all my posts. If it's PVC with a 200mm diameter, of course, it'll be a 200-300mm diameter hole. You get the idea? So you always need to have a plan B. I'm really glad to have this PVC. Like I said, with this auger, it's complicated. At least the PVC is going to save me. Anyway, it was going to be thrown away. You should know that on industrial and public work sites, there's a lot of waste. So if you know people who work in public works, you can contact them and ask if they have any scraps. For example, PVC, it's simple, but it can be useful. I'm talking about PVC, but it could be something else like mesh. So you get it. PVC can save me, but maybe with the auger, it's going to go very well, but just in case, it's better to be prepared. So for the posts, I don't make things complicated for myself. I take wooden posts, they're treated, but they're not top quality. It's the same thing, go to nurseries, ask for wooden posts, stakes, and look for the ones that are really crooked and try to negotiate the price. Usually they don't use them because they can't sell them, so you might as well use them. For me, it's just for a fence, and anyway, it's going to shift over time. So, as I said, the posts are treated. I'll still add a 50 to 60 centimeters layer of tar since it'll be buried, so I want to protect it as much as possible. So, if you don't have tar, you can use used motor oil. It works very well. And for those who are wondering, the post is 2.5 meters high and the diameter is 60 millimeters. So, on the neighbor side, I'm going to cut them at 2 meters, and on the fence side, I'll cut everything that sticks out, about 1.25 meters. At the back, 1.25 meters is plenty. My dog doesn't jump fences or run away. On the sides, make the fence as high as possible for climbing plants later. Now that you know everything, let's put up the fence. And we'll meet again at the end of the video to go over the different tools and equipment I used to put up this fence, like the Coulson cable tie, pliers, the wire twisting tool, the string line, the circular saw, and so on. So, if you enjoy my videos, the best way to support me is to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell to get new videos, and give a big thumbs up. You can also follow me on Instagram by subscribing. I regularly post photos and videos. Alright, all the holes are done. Well, actually, they're more like trenches. It looks more like a trench than a hole. So now, the goal is to take the 160mm diameter PVC pipe, which I cut to a height of 50 cm. I'm going to put them in the holes, line them up with the string, fill in all around, and that's going to give me this. So, in the end, I have a hole that's the same diameter for each one, the same depth, so the same amount of concrete used. And I'm all set. I could leave it like this for several weeks to let the soil settle, but I'm a bit in a hurry, so we're going to water it well so it settles on its own. I'm going to put the concrete in, the post. You'll see the quickset concrete in a moment. All you have to do is water it and it'll work on its own. The advantage is that when I remove my post, all I have to do is pull it straight out. The PVC pipes are planted in the ground, and honestly I didn't really have a choice but to use the excavator because with the auger the soil is so dry between the rocks and the vine roots. Since this used to be a vineyard, it was impossible with the auger. So, a scoop with the bucket, I placed the PVC, we put the soil back, it rained. I don't know if you can see it, so it's going to settle more or less. I'll leave it like this for a few days and it'll end up settling on its own. So now that it's done, we can put a stake at each end, stretch a string at the bottom and top, check that it's plumb, so a stake at each end, and then I'll take care of putting in the other stakes so I don't have to bother measuring. Between each post I put a square at the end of a batten. The batten is the length of the fence. I position it as a stop like this. And then the PVC pipe will have the batten and of course aligned with the string. And so this is called tar. For those who are wondering, I coated the posts that I set in concrete for the shed with this product, so it's tar. I'm making the base for the stakes and will show you. They're mostly straight, though some are a bit crooked. We'll straighten them since they're wood and I'll bury them. 50 cm brush for coating. It looks like a wallpaper brush, except the bristles are much stiffer. We dip them in tar, we brush it on, and the wood is protected. I'll take 1 bag per post, 3.5 liters of water, and we're good to go. So the mesh, I'm going to position it like this, facing the post, and I'll tie it with cable ties. That's more than enough. Anyway, I'm probably going to plant wisteria or climbing roses, so it will be covered, and I'm not going to tighten them completely for now. The ties will allow me to adjust the trellis properly, and then we'll do the top part. Ideally, I have a height of 1.8 meters. And I'll take you for a little walk in the eucalyptus. I noticed that it was actually infested with hornets. They're eating the Corsican bees. I don't know what they're doing to them, but they're so out of it from what they eat that they don't notice anything. I could film or touch them and they wouldn't react. The fence is finished, it's installed. It was complicated with the weather because one moment it rained, then it was sunny, then it rained again, then it was sunny again, it was hell. But now that it's finished, on the neighbor's side, I left the mesh sticking out so I can attach to it and continue all the way to the end. To continue the fence and set the posts, I'll have to use an auger since I'm now in a wooded area, making the mini excavator difficult to use. However, I'll do it in November or December, or maybe even in February or March, when the ground will be much less dry. So, to attach the mesh panels and the wire mesh, I used zip ties. It'll work just fine. I'm telling you, it's going to be covered anyway. On the neighbor's side, there will be climbing plants, so nothing will be visible anymore. And the pliers, that's essential when you have a lot to put on instead of forcing it. Anyway, you'll never have enough strength. With your fingers, you take the pliers and it pulls by itself and you don't struggle at all and it goes super fast. And for the mesh, I use tie wire. It comes on a roll. There must be about 1,000 in there. The twister, that's super handy. Of course, I could use wire from a roll, pliers and twist it, but that takes a lot longer. The twister is very fast, and the advantage is that you can control how tight it gets. I can put a hook on the drill, it works very well, but it's so powerful that after a while it will break the tie. With the twister you can control how tight it gets. Once you think it's tight enough, you remove it, cut off the excess, or fold the tie back on itself, and that's it. If you have masonry work, this purchase will be very useful. Find the links in the description. Same goes for the small pliers, and of course for marking the ground, the spray paint is essential. And instead of bothering to measure the distance between the posts, you measure your wire mesh panel. You take a leftover piece of half batten, the same length as the wire mesh panel, and you use it to mark out the spacing. Each time we mark with the spray paint, it really saves you from measuring. So the thing you absolutely need to keep, it will be useful no matter what. These are metal rods, you stick them into the ground and the string you tie it to them and that doesn't move at all. You can leave it in place long term. This one I think it's 10 mm, it won't rot. You put your string, you stretch it all out, and if your project is going to last several weeks or several months, you'll keep the rod stuck in the ground. Did you notice I cut off what was sticking out at the posts? The cordless circular saw made it much easier without cords getting in the way. However, cutting a post lengthwise, I cut about 70 centimeters that was sticking out. That can be dangerous. The blade has a brake, it stops by itself, but what sticks out can fall on your head or it can jam the blade, and with the kickback effect it can jerk backwards, so it can be very dangerous. Ideally it's best to use a jigsaw or a reciprocating saw, there's much less risk. So, that's it for this fence. Feel free to give me your feedback, tell me what you think. Would you have done the same or something different? And when I was installing the posts, I was wondering if it might be worth doing everything in PVC. Since my base is made of PVC, I build up from that with a reducer. Then a 2 meter high tube if needed, or 1 meter whatever height, with a diameter of 63 or 50. I put sand inside to make it more rigid, or why not concrete? Of course it's a lot more work to put concrete in there, but at least it's super solid. PVC's advantage is it needs no maintenance. A steel post needs to be treated, it needs to be painted, wood also needs to be treated, it needs to be painted, tarred, so with PVC there's zero maintenance. However, it's much more work since you must fill it with sand or concrete to strengthen it. Well, in any case, I really want to thank you for watching this video. As usual, if you enjoyed it, give it a big thumbs up, share the video, and subscribe to get notifications for upcoming videos. We'll be back very soon with the rest of the project. In the meantime, take care and see you soon.